Welcome to another slow and quiet journey through the past. Tonight, we leave behind the noise of the present. No alarms, no deadlines, no glowing screens. Instead, we travel back to a time of stillness, of discipline, of ritual, a time when the rhythm of life was set not by clocks or clicks, but by the seasons. And the sword, you've likely heard the word samurai. Perhaps it brings to mind images of warriors in shining armor, fearless in battle, swift with their blades. But tonight, we explore a different truth, the quieter truth. Being a samurai wasn't all heroic duels and flying banners. It was also calloused hands, daily rituals, and the quiet weight of duty. It was tea before war, poetry before sleep. It was honor so deeply embedded in life that even a single misstep could lead to death, not from an enemy, but by one's own hand. This evening, we'll step into the wooden slippers of a samurai, not just the ones we admire from afar, but the ones who lived quiet, structured lives, shaped more by obedience and patience than violence. We'll begin by walking through a day in their sandals, immersing ourselves in the discipline and discomfort of daily life. Then we follow one of Japan's most enduring legends, Musashi, whose life tells a deeper story than the myths suggest. Next, we'll explore the mysterious world of the samurai sword, not in battle, but in spirit and symbolism. And finally, we'll peek behind the curtain of elite samurai courts, where silence, elegance, and unspoken power shape the world from within. So find a comfortable position, let your muscles soften, let your breathing slow, and let the past gently unfold. Segment 1. What it was really like to be a samurai. Imagine the quiet before sunrise. You are already awake. The straw mat beneath you creaks softly as you sit upright, legs folded beneath you, posture stiff but controlled. Outside, the wind rustles faintly through a grove of bamboo. The walls around you are thin, made of paper stretched across wooden frames. The floor is cool. The air smells faintly of rice, cedar, and smoke from the hearth. You are a samurai, but there is no war waiting for you this morning. There is routine. Your days begin early before the first bird call. Discipline is not a choice. It is a state of being. You rise. You dress in silence, pulling on your plain kimono. Armor will come only if the day demands it. Most days, it does not. Before food, there is cleansing. You wash your face and hands at a stone basin, the water cold and sharp against your skin. This is not for hygiene alone. It is symbolic. To begin clean is to begin rightly. Your sword waits nearby, not in a display, but resting carefully within arm's reach. Always. The katana is not just a tool, it is a soul. It must be respected, polished daily, not merely wiped, but tended to with reverence. The curve of the blade is familiar, almost intimate. You do not brandish it, you bow to it. Breakfast is small. Rice, pickled vegetables, and perhaps a sliver of grilled fish. You eat in silence, chewing slowly, listening to the faint sounds of servants tending the grounds, of water boiling, of sandals brushing against wood. And then practice, not wild swings or flashy moves. Repetition, form, posture. You may repeat the same movement, drawing and sheathing the blade 50 times, 100 times, each time with the same focus, the same intent. The goal is not speed, not power. It is control. Later, there may be duties guarding a lord, overseeing peasants, studying strategy, or writing poetry. Yes, poetry. Calligraphy is as important as combat. You are expected to be both warrior and scholar, blade and brush. Your life is not your own. It belongs to your clan, to your master, to honor. And honor is fragile. One moment of shame can undo a lifetime of service, and shame cannot always be repaired. This is why you learn restraint, why you bow deeply, why your movements are measured, your words few, your heart calm even in anger. In the evening, You kneel again, this time at the tea mat. The tea ceremony is not for refreshment. It is a meditation. Each motion has a purpose. Each gesture is quiet, graceful, humble. You serve as you are served. There is no rank in tea, only stillness. By nightfall, your shoulders ache not from battle, but from tension held in every movement. The candle flickers, the room cools. You sleep lightly, because even in peace, your duty never sleeps. Segment 2. The Life of Miyamoto Musashi. Beyond the legend, now imagine a man not bound by one lord, not settled in one place. A man who moved through Japan like a wandering shadow, not aimless, but deliberate, like a mountain stream that never stays still, yet always finds its path. His name was Miyamoto Musashi. You may know him as the undefeated swordsman, he who fought over 60 duels and never lost. But behind the legend was a life far less romantic and far more restless. Musashi was not born into the comforts of a well-established samurai household. His beginnings were uncertain. Some say he was born in 1584, though the exact date, like many things about him, remains vague. Raised during the bloody tail end of Japan's time when the country was fractured and warring, his world was shaped by conflict and transition, like a blacksmith folding steel over fire. These years tempered him. He fought his first duel at the age of 13. Imagine that, at an age when most were still learning to serve tea and write clean kanji. Musashi stood with a wooden sword in his hands, facing a grown warrior. He won, not with elegance, but with raw instinct and sheer determination. But this was only the beginning. As he grew, Musashi became a ronin, a samurai without a master, in a society built on loyalty and hierarchy. This was a precarious path, like walking a tightrope in a windstorm. Yet, for Musashi, it offered freedom. He wandered from town to town, challenging other swordsmen. His style was unorthodox. He often fought with two swords, one in each hand, a technique most viewed as reckless, even rude. But it worked. He studied the rhythm of his opponents. Not unlike a musician waiting for the exact beat to join a melody, he would watch, wait, and strike at the perfect moment. But Musashi was more than a fighter. He was also a philosopher, a painter, and a writer. He eventually penned the Book of Five Rings, a collection of strategic teachings that blended martial wisdom with life philosophy. His words are spare, almost Zen-like, urging simplicity, clarity, and mindfulness. He writes a void of embracing nothingness, not as emptiness, but as openness, like the stillness between the notes of a flute. He avoided fame, refused titles, lived in caves for periods of solitude, while other warriors built reputations in court. Musashi seemed to drift away from luxury and into introspection. He was like smoke, visible, real, yet always slipping through the fingers of those who tried to define him. But his life was not without struggle. Some viewed him as a barbarian, too rough, too wild. His lack of etiquette made him an outsider in refined samurai circles. Yet, it's perhaps this rejection of pretense that made his teachings resonate across centuries. He did not polish his life to make it fit into a box. He lived with contradiction, warrior and artist, killer and poet, lone wolf and sage. Toward the end of his life, Musashi settled briefly, his dueling days behind him, his hands still steady, but no longer needed for combat. He painted birds in flight, wrote letters, reflected, and then, quietly, he passed. No final duel, no blaze of glory, just a gentle conclusion of a life that had been in motion since youth, like a candle that burns long, steadily, and then softly flickers out. Today, his name is legend, but the real Musashi was quieter. He was not the clash of swords. He was the silence in between. And now, we step away from the man, from the motion, from the duels and the dusty roads. We move into something older still, a blade not in use, but at rest, a tool. Yes, but more than that, a spirit, a symbol. Let's journey now into the soul of the sword. Segment 3, the spirit of the katana ritual. craft and meaning. Not every blade is meant to strike. Some are forged to be worn, to be honored, to be remembered. Now, picture a narrow workshop. Quiet, clean. A single beam of sunlight filters through a wooden slat, catching a tiny swirl of dust in the air. At the center of the room, a man kneels beside a glowing furnace. His face is calm, his robes plain, his focus absolute. And the blade he shapes will take weeks, perhaps months, to complete. The katana, the curved, single-edged sword of the samurais. Not merely a weapon, it is a manifestation of patience, discipline, and soul. To call it just a tool is to misunderstand its place in Japanese culture. It begins with Tamahagan raw steel, smelted from iron sand in a clay furnace known as the process itself is ancient, ritualistic. The smith doesn't simply melt and pour. He folds the steel, repeatedly, sometimes dozens of times, each fold refining each hammer blow aligning molecules, increasing both strength and flexibility. Imagine the rhythm, the hiss of steam, the soft roar of the fire, the metallic ring of hammer on steel. It is not loud, but steady, almost like a heartbeat. It's easy to imagine this sound continuing without end, generation after generation. As the blade takes shape, the smith carves its subtle curve by controlling how it cools, quenching it in water, with a precise timing that could mean the difference between perfection and a cracked ruin. And then, once forged, it rests. 4 days, the blade is honed, polished by hand with increasingly finer stones. The final surface is smooth as glass, yet it reflects not a perfect mirror but a shifting, ghost-like shimmer. Along its edge runs the hamina cladi, wave-like line that marks the boundary between hardness and softness in the steel. No two blades have the same hammer. It is like a fingerprint, but even now, it is not complete. A katana is not one piece, it is a harmony of parts. The guard, or suba, might be cast with intricate symbols or family crests. The handle suka, wrapped carefully in silk or leather, over race, and finally, the scabbard, or saya lacquer, and fitted to the blade so precisely that it glides in and out with barely a whisper. When it is ready, it is named, yes, named. Some were passed down for generations. Some were believed to hold spirits. And it's easy to see why. Holding one, even in ceremony, even in silence, feels like holding more than an object. The balance is perfect. The weight, honest. It commands respect, not fear, not pride, but stillness. Samurai were taught to view the sword as their soul. It was never drawn lightly, never displayed for flair. It lived at their side, its edge turned upward ready, but contained. To draw the sword was to cross a threshold, and once drawn, it demanded resolution. There was no return to the scabbard without purpose. There were also rituals of care. The sword was cleaned and oiled regularly, not because it would be used, but because it was honored, much like the tea ceremony. The act of tending to the katana became a meditation, a way to reflect, to reset, to remain mindful of one's place. And yet, for all its beauty, the sword also represented the final line of duty. When a samurai lost their honor, when failure became unbearable, they would perform ritual suicide, often with their own blade. It was not a dramatic gesture, but a controlled, solemn act, a way to preserve dignity in the face of disgrace. But tonight, we don't linger there. We leave the blade in its resting place, quiet, clean. Its journey, like the samurai's, is not always one of action but of restraint. The katana, in its scabbard, resting across a folded cloth, is at peace. And so, we step back from the forge, from the ceremony, from the steel, and we walk quietly into the higher halls of society, where the samurai did not fight, but served. Segment 4. In the Lord's Court. Silence, rank, and ritual. The battlefield may be loud with clashing steel, but the court is silent. You are still a samurai, but here, in the shogun's palace, or your daimyo's estate, you do not fight. You do not draw your sword. You bow. You wait. You observe, hear, power flows, not through bloodshed, but through formality. Step through the threshold of the residence, and everything slows. The polished wooden floors reflect candlelight like still water. The tummy mats soften your tread. The scent of incense drifts faintly through the air, sandalwood, maybe pine. Paper lanterns glow softly behind wooden latticework, casting warm pools of light in otherwise dim corridors. You kneel before entering each chamber. Your speech is careful, sparse. You do not make idle conversation unless invited. A wrong word, a gesture made too quickly, can be seen as disrespect. And in a world where social rank is everything, even subtle offense can echo. Your lord sits at the center of it all, dressed in fine silk robes. His movements are controlled, almost rehearsed. His face rarely changes expression. This is a performance as much as it is a position of power. Around him, advisors and attendants speak softly, often in euphemism. Directness is discouraged. Precision is paramount. You might be summoned to present a report, to deliver a message, to act as a bodyguard during a diplomatic visit, or to simply observe. To stand quietly and be seen. Your presence, more than your words, affirms your loyalty. Every action is deliberate. When you kneel, your hands are placed carefully on your thighs. When you bow, your eyes lower, but not too quickly. When you offer tea or documents, you do so with both hands. Nothing is rushed. Nothing is careless. Time here feels different. A full hour may pass with only a few sentences spoken. A meeting may involve more silence than speech, but this, too, is part of the rhythm. Authority is measured by the ability to wait without discomfort, to remain composed. Even stillness is a form of strength. Outside, beyond these walls, others labor. Farmers, craftsmen, merchants, monks. But within this world of hierarchy and grace, your focus is singular. Uphold your Lord's will. Preserve your reputation. Maintain the mask of perfect conduct. And still, life here is not without pleasure. There are poetry readings, tea ceremonies, even no performances where masked actors glide slowly across the stage to the sound of flute and drum, telling old stories with ghostly elegance. These performances are not meant to excite. They are meant to evoke reflection, stillness, distance from desire. Even meals are a ritual. Rice served in lacquered bowls, fish arranged with symmetry, a single plum, a folded cloth. You eat slowly, in silence, often alone. There is no conversation, no laughter, only the sound of your own chewing and the faint rustle of the garden outside. At night, you retire to your quarters, perhaps within the estate itself. You remove your outer robe. You kneel again, this time in private, offering a silent bow of gratitude for the day. Gratitude for duty, for stillness, for restraint. And you lie down upon your mat. The corridors grow dark. The lanterns burn low. The guards at the gate remain alert. But you can finally let go. Even the most devoted warrior must sleep. And in this stillness, behind the walls of power and etiquette, behind the symbols and the formality, you are reminded of the same truth. The farmer and the wanderer knew honor is a quiet thing. Conclusion. The weight of the sword, the quiet of the path, and so our journey through the samurai world comes to rest. You have walked a narrow path of duty and form. You have stood alongside a restless, masterless swordsman. You have watched a blade be born from fire and folded steel. And you have kneeled in the hush of high chambers, where a nod means more than a speech. The samurai were not only warriors, they were caretakers of silence, stewards of control, balancers of edge and grace. And now, here in the softness of your own space, you, too, can let go of tension. There is no duel to be fought tonight, no lord to impress, no ritual to perfect. Only rest, only breath, only stillness. The sword sleeps in its scabbard. The court is quiet. The master bows, and you drift gently into the folds of time.